need to record the podcast for the 26
Baby, come
people
back.
who listen. You can blame it all
On me.
I was wrong, and I just can't live without you. It's a chain of events that leads to that.
It always leads to that.
It leads right in. That's the secret, kids. Take that one and put it in the bank.
Welcome to Relaxed Retro Talk, episode 26, you guys.
26.
We are coming off the heels of a fantastic Spectrefest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Raised over $3,500 this year.
Yep.
You said you've got all the fancy numbers.
I got all the numbers. Okay, so total raised this year $3,510. So $3,510.10. Never forget the 10 cents. The 10 cents is there. Actually, it's funny because that 10 cents is going to live on in perpetuity
forever,
until someone decides to
donate 90 cents.
Yeah, we had this whole thing during Spectrefest. There was Team Even, Team Odd, and they were battling.
It's technically still even.
It's technically still even, but they were what they were aiming at was even,
like not a
like
rounded
zero,
dollar.
Yeah, rounded dollars. And so, but what that did was it put our grand total over these past 3 years, raising $11,440.10 for Crohn's and Colitis Canada.
Oh, 11!
11,000. Yeah. So, we had one of the reps from Crohn's and Colitis Canada was in chat, and we were talking, and they had said it's $50,000 for a 1-year research grant, and so this event alone has funded one fifth of that grant, basically.
Jeez.
Right.
Beauty.
And obviously we couldn't have done it without all of you.
Yeah.
So eternal thank you and gratitudes for showing up in record numbers. It was incredibly successful. The whole thing went by really
fast. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Even after my first block, I was like, "Holy shit! It's been 6 hours already."
Yeah. This one really zipped by. We had some of the other stats. So over the entire 24 hours, we saw 200 unique connections show up. And so that Twitch counts that as basically one per household. So if you have multiple people connecting in your house, that still only counts as one.
Right.
So basically 200 different households had connected at some point during that 24-hour period.
Beauty.
Maximum view count was at 65. So we had 65 people total. Was the absolute peak we saw at once. And over 60 unique people chatting. So over 60 different people putting something into chat.
That's awesome.
So yeah, lots of engagement, lots of folks just hanging out with us.
Yeah.
And that it was just really good. The whole event was fantastic. I was a little concerned for this year. Not because we were underprepared, but just because this year 3, right? Like at a certain point, I'm anticipating like that plateau and then the crash. But
I think the first year was still our best year. Didn't we get like $4,000?
Yeah.
I think
the first year. So the donation amount to beat is 4605.
46. Holy crap.
4605. Yeah. And so that was the first year that we did it. The second year, last year, was 3325, and then this year was 3510. All incredibly respectable, considering that it's the two of us and we're playing games and we're just doing our thing,
hanging out.
and donations pretty much even cut straight down the center
Really?
for you and I. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough to get the whole numbers because we split the donations in half, right?
Right.
Half of them end up going through
Oh, right.
Tiltify.
That website. And the other half go
Yeah,
through
half go through the website, half come through Tiltify.
Tiltify.
They
Yeah.
all, everything goes to Crohn's and Colitis Canada,
Straight
but in order
there.
for
Straight
in order
there,
for
which is important.
yeah, we don't see any of it.
Yeah.
In order for the in order for it to pop up on the screen and stuff, it's got to go through Tiltify,
Yeah.
which is why we use that. And so yeah, it pretty much was split right down the center. I think Tiltify was a little bit more, just over 2,000, but the main Crohn's and Colitis website was still over 1,500 on its
Nice.
own. So yeah, it was fantastic, incredibly successful. You know, I was saying during the stream how like this is hands down one of the best ways that we could honor Jason, that we could
Oh,
kind of, you know, like
absolutely.
just getting, and we had people I had people in chat asking me about like, well, who was Jason?
Mhm,
What
same,
is
yeah.
Spectrefest about? And so it's just an opportunity just to kind of spread that. The sheer number of people that have come up to me and are like, hey, you know, I donated because I also have ulcerative colitis, or I also
Yeah.
have Crohn's disease, or it's really sad, but it's also like, wow, I'm glad that we can find something that has kind of tied that in,
Yeah.
right? Because like I said earlier, with us raising that 11,000, that's money just straight into research grants,
Yeah.
right? And so we're aiming at a world where maybe one day there won't be IBDs
No
anymore.
doubt. Yeah, that'd be incredible.
And just the sheer fact that we're part of it, and Jason's name is on the leading the charge of it.
Yeah.
I think that's just amazing.
So,
and
because I
fantastic.
remember, was it last year or the year before? It was because we did the whole donation thing on like the Crohn's and Colitis website. It like comes up as one big number, and I remember we were like really close to being at the top of the list.
Still are.
Yeah, okay.
we still are. So
there's like a race or a marathon or something that always beats us by a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so there's a lot. So Crohn's and Colitis Canada has multiple different donation revenue streams.
Yeah.
And so the I'm just trying to bring this up here.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I kind of push you on the
spot. And so the thing is that they've got personal fundraisers, and then they've got their own, like, whatever you'd call it,
the ones that they put together themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, of all the different personal fundraisers that are out there, we're still like almost near the top, right?
Yeah. That's what I think our goal is to try and get to the top.
Yeah. So I'm bringing this up here right now.
Yeah.
Because how did I get there?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing, is trying to find it. But you heard, while you're looking, you heard about like that recent news, like, you know, the completionist, that YouTube guy. He's like,
I don't know if I do.
Oh, okay, he's a super popular like video gaming YouTuber, and he's got like really good content, super good guy. Everybody has nothing but nice things to say about him. He does this charity stream every year for the past, I think, 10 or 13 years. And it just came out that all the money, all the donations, there's like over like millions of dollars that have been donated to him over the course of these 10 years, is just sitting in an account and has never been donated.
Really?
Yeah, and that just came out like last week or the week before, and everyone's like, what the fuck? But it's like, I was in the Discord, and I was like, just stressing, like, just so you guys know, like, the first thing we decided when we did this whole charity, it was like, don't want our hands to ever touch this money. Like we wanted to go straight into the account, and most people, that's how they do it. So I don't know why you would want to set up a third-party account and then donate that way.
Yeah,
from there.
That's crazy.
That adds so much extra work too. Like.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I still I do know there's bad people out in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, some folks probably look at that and go, here's a way for me to make a quick buck. I know a lot of folks, and this is really sad, but a lot of folks will, what do you call it? A lot of folks will hold a fundraiser and they'll say, they'll collect all that money. Maybe they raise $10,000, right? And then they
And they
turn around
give
and they donate
themselves like a
1,000.
cut. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's awful. And so that's really good that we're able to essentially just champion it, I guess you could call it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like we don't, none of that money touches us whatsoever.
Yeah.
We full on change the donation buttons. We make it so that it literally goes direct, and it's as direct as humanly possible. Tiltify is the only jump that
Yeah, and it's just
happens.
so that we can be notified and everything's and
Exactly. And
tracked better.
I had mentioned to the crew here that I work with when we set the event up,
Yeah.
I said, if you can somehow give us what Tiltify does, which is popping it up on screen and stuff like that,
With
we don't need to use Tiltify
yeah,
at
at all. It could just go to that
right?
website. Yeah.
Exactly. And so but yeah, so like I'm looking at the list of all the fundraisers here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's a few that are live and they go up to the top, right?
Yeah.
But the highest amount of money raised in one of these personal fundraisers
Yeah.
is about $6,000,
Oh,
right?
really?
And we're at 11,000, right?
Yeah.
So like our fundraiser is one of the highest amount of funding
For total.
for in the personal side of the
Yeah,
house,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Like
and
outside
obviously,
entities, basically raising
yeah,
the money.
exactly, right? Like, so people who just are like, hey, I want to raise money for you.
Yeah.
That's the bucket that they fall into. Obviously they have like Crohn's and colitis does something called a gutsy walk, which is
That's
once
probably
per
the one I was
year. It's
thinking
like
of.
a marathon.
Yeah.
That's their like primary
Mhm.
fundraiser. They also do Music for the Gut is one that they do. It's like a concert series.
They do like a bunch of like
They
little bake
they
sales
do a bunch
and
of
like
ones,
soup and
bake sales,
sandwich and stuff like that.
brunches and stuff like
Yeah.
that. They do a bunch of things like along those lines, and that's all fundraising and stuff. But from the personal point of view,
Yeah.
we were at one point the number one
Yeah.
fundraiser in that bucket. And so the thing is, though, is that the website doesn't list it that way because obviously half the donations are over in Tiltify.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it looks like it's actually a little bit less on the website. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Look, all the money
Yeah.
goes to them, and at the end of the day, all of that money combined is research grants.
Yeah.
It's paying doctors. It's getting the word out. It's paying the entire charity is like volunteer based, which is
Yeah.
just crazy to me.
Which is
right?
why it's such a good organization to donate to, because a lot of things,
100%.
a lot of like charities themselves,
Mhm.
like they have they take out so much for like overhead costs and stuff, and these guys take
Yeah.
very minimal, if anything. Like it's 99%.
I want to say
volunteer.
there's a ton of volunteer. I want to say their overhead, the amount that they give back, is something like I think the amount that they put forward towards their mission goal is like 86%,
Oh,
which is
okay.
crazy.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Because that means only 14% of that money is being used to make the thing work, right?
Yeah.
To pay the webmaster, to pay the people that are trying to find donors and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? All the rest of it is freaking
Volunteer.
and it's just it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's all just fantastic, and I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy
It's
because
amazing.
I still remember that first year, and I think
Mhm.
our highest, because we always have like the donation goals, right? Where like once
Yep.
we hit this goal, this is we're gonna do this, blah blah blah. And I just remember that first year, our highest donation goal was $200 because that's what we were expecting to raise, and we raised
Yep.
over 4,000 in that first year.
Almost
And
5,000.
that whole time I was like, holy crap! Like every single donation, I
Every
was just
time.
losing it.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Yeah,
Like it's
it is
absolutely crazy.
But that goes to show the absolute incredible community we have. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah,
It's just
that's right.
like unbelievable the amount of support. Like we're not big time streamers, not big time YouTubers, and like we're able to pull
No.
that amount for like donations.
100%.
Like it's crazy, man.
So I just found the graph here. So it is 2022 was 12% was used on the company. So that means 88% of all the amount of money that they've raised went to the mission. Right?
Awesome.
It's just it's phenomenal,
Yeah.
right? Like I love that. I love that concept that basically the administration, the general and administration
This is
made
such
up
a
twelve
small.
percent.
Yeah, that's
That was their
good.
cost.
That's good.
And that's just crazy. The revenue source is 28% of the amount of money that came in was individual giving. The Gutsy Walk that I mentioned earlier was 19% of
Oh
their total
wow.
funding. And then obviously corporate giving and all of those kinds
Yeah,
of
yeah.
things, they all make up a portion of that. But almost 30% of the amount of money coming in was the individual giving. That's where we fit in, right?
Yeah.
And so to be at the top of that list, it's a
Yeah,
badge of
it's
honor.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, year 4 looks phenomenal. We got ideas in the chamber. We were gonna build a plaque, which we still have to do.
Oh yeah.
Finney said he was gonna machine one for us.
Yeah, yeah.
That guy, that Finney. What a
Get
guy,
on her,
that guy.
Finney. Get on her.
And yeah, so anyway, thank you to all of you
No
for
doubt.
your support. Another completely successful year. There was folks, I got to give a shout out to Goodsy. I got to give a shout out to, who else was there? Krim was there.
Krim, yeah.
There was folks that were there from like the beginning to the end. Goodsy missed, I think, an hour and a half of the
That's
entire
crazy,
24
man.
hours.
Yeah, there's
Right?
a lot, dude. We had a lot of people, and like usually I call it like the shitlord block from like like 10 a.m. till or 10 p.m. till like 6 a.m. or something like that. And
Yeah.
like I had people there the whole time this year.
The whole time.
Usually it's
Yeah.
like me, Krim, and Doom Dog,
Doomed.
and that's it.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
year, man, there was people.
Yeah, there was a lot.
I can't believe we had that many people. We raised what we did, and I can't believe I beat Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on the NES.
That was amazing.
That was insane. I can't believe it. But
yeah, that was it was super successful year. So there's another year before. We always do it in mid-October. So if you have ideas of what you'd like to see,
let us know in the
Spectrefest,
comments.
always let us know. Yeah, we're wide open to those ideas. I started writing the names. I was doing the poster thing again this year. It was taking too much time. I think the balloon animals thing that I was doing, that worked out nicely. I'll probably do that again. And then we're always cooking.
I didn't even know you could make
that's-
balloon animals, to be honest.
Yep. I'm a man of many talents.
But yeah, anyways, let's roll in to the main event of the evening.
Man, PS1. This podcast is never gonna end.
This
Just
is
gonna tell you
the
right
one that won't end. The PS1, I remember. So, did you get it fairly early on, or did you get it like a year or two after?
No. So our PS1 is not even our PS1. It was Jason's PS1. Right?
Yeah.
He bought it. He bought it in 1994. So we had it like right off the hop. It was brand new. It's so funny story. We went to Costco. That's where we bought it from. He went in to buy a 3DO. That's
right,
because
was it Road Rash? Is what
Road
he was.
Rash. Yeah, he wanted that. He wanted the Philips 3DO was what he was aiming at. That's what he wanted to play. And so we got there. They were sold out of the 3DO. They didn't have them. And so we asked a guy like, hey, do you have any of these 3DOs? They were like, no, we're sold out. But we just got these in. They're called Sony Playstations, if you've ever heard of them. And he hadn't. It was brand new. And so they had a demo unit set up. And long story short, he ended up getting it. We bought the PS1 when they had the long box games.
No way.
So That's like they looked like CD cases.
They look like Sega CD cases almost, like Sega Saturn, Sega CD
That's
style.
right.
Yeah.
And so the first game he bought was Mortal Kombat 3.
Oh.
And so he picked that up. Some of the other titles he had picked up right off the hop. Warhawk.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that game.
Twisted Metal. A couple other ones I can't really remember off the top of my head, but they were all the long box versions of them, right?
Yeah.
And so we came home that day with a PS1. That was his 100%. It had nothing to do with me.
Right.
I was a bunk little kid, right?
Deleting
and
one of those delete and saves kids.
Man, I can't wait till we touch base on how
Dude,
awful
everybody
I was
did it
as a
though.
kid.
Like I remember, like my mom, like even on the NES, like I'd have like my Dragon Quest fucking like 1 and 4 games,
Sure.
and I would and then even like Zelda, right? And like my mom's friends would have kids, And they'd be like, if I wasn't home, they'd just go on my Nintendo and start and like delete my save and start it. And I was like, holy fuck, Mom. Do not let these kids around my Nintendo.
Never let them touch my stuff. No, exactly. Yeah. I was awful. And so he picked up the PS4, or sorry, PS4, jeez. He picked up the PlayStation, took it home, played it, fantastic, awesome system. We ended up getting to the point with the PS1 where he had the multi-tap and a few controllers.
Right.
There was a game we found in the bargain bin called Shipwrecked. If you've ever played it.
No.
It was just it was kind of like a party game type of game.
Oh.
Imagine Mario Kart, but it was top down, right?
Oh, okay. Like RC Pro-Am, kind of?
Kind of, but not quite, right? I'll have to show it to you sometime. Maybe we can play it on that program that you've got.
Oh yeah.
And so basically, it's top down. You're a ship, right? And you're driving the ocean. You've got cannons, and you can pick up different power ups. And you're trying to blow the other ships up, basically, is what you were trying to do.
Okay.
It's a ton of fun. We found it at the bargain bin of all places. It was like $19 back in the day.
Nice.
We had a ton of fun with that. WWF Attitude and Warzone, both of those games. Man, what else? What else were we playing like right off the hop? It was a lot of stuff like that, right? And Jason was immaculate with his things, man. Dude, that guy took good care of everything. Right, like he still had those long box PS1 games when he moved away to college, and he ended up selling it to a guy because his kid wanted a gaming system, and he was like, "Well, I've got this stuff. You can have it if you want it."
Yeah, well, and the PS2 can play all PS1 games.
PS2 can play it all. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, man, the memories I've got with that PS1, and then I ended up getting a PS1 down the road because I loved Final Fantasy VII so much.
Yeah.
And so to go back to your previous thing, he let me play my own copy of Final Fantasy VII. And he made the mistake of letting me use his memory card. And I started a new game and I wiped out his 40-something hour playthrough.
God, and Final Fantasy VII's long.
It's long. It's very long. And I wiped it out. And he was really mad at me. He still let me play the game. But then I had to do it on the rule that I went and bought my own memory card.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He was a nice guy, dude. Man, if that was me, I would have been like, you're never friggin' touching this thing again. No doubt. Get the hell out of my room. And that's that. Like, not once, not one time did he do that. He was really mad though.
Dude, understandably so. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, and then anyway, I ended up getting my own PS1. I bought Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII. I never picked up 9, but I ended up modding the PS1 because his buddy knew how to solder.
Yeah, you were the only person I knew that actually had a modded PS1.
Yeah, he soldered a mod chip into my PS. I still have it. It's right over there. It's right back there. And so it works. It works like a champ still. I was actually playing Final Fantasy 9 on the PS1. But it's modded. I can download a game and burn it to a disc.
Yeah.
I don't have a disc drive in my computer anymore.
I know that. Well, I do over there, but I don't on my laptop. It's so weird.
But yeah, so I mean, phenomenal, amazing system. That the PS1 shaped my gaming future from that point forward, right?
Yeah.
But you got your PS1 later in life, right?
Yeah. So I don't even know what year it would have been. Actually, it would have been
like 97?
98, I think.
98? Okay.
Yeah, because
you got one of the DualShock ones.
Yeah, they had the DualShock. I still have it. I still have my original PlayStation. I don't have it hooked up because you don't need to because I got my PS2.
Yours is a square one though, not the round one, right?
No, I don't have that little. I don't have that little bastard.
PS1 ONE.
Yeah. Those are ugly, man. My uncle had one of those, and then it had like the little flip up screen too.
Oh yeah.
But dude, I think like it's hard to choose a favorite console of all time.
Oh, it's hard.
But I think mine would be like PS1 is like there or second place. Like it's there. That and like the Genesis, I think for me are like right up there.
Yeah.
But I feel like the PS4 was really, really good. And
PS4 was very good.
Yeah.
PS4 was fantastic.
And you can play a lot of PS1 games on it because you can like download them and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
the thing about the PS1 is it's got that nostalgia. Like I said, it shaped my gaming, right? Like up to
Yeah.
that point, playing on the Super Nintendo, you would just kind of play a game, do whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think kind of the PS1 really brought the RPGs
The
to North
forefront.
America, and
Yeah.
it really made it like it wasn't a niche thing, right? Like
Not at that
if you bought
time.
Final Fantasy on the Super Nintendo, you were an RPG fan,
Yeah.
right? If you bought Final Fantasy 7 on the PlayStation 1, you just liked video games,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't you didn't buy it. A lot of people did, but the vast majority of folks that bought Final Fantasy 7 weren't RPG fans. They had never even heard of an RPG. That was me. I had never
Yeah.
even heard of an RPG up to that point. I never played them before. The RPGs that I knew about were the like corridor style ones, right?
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah. Like
like
Shining in the Darkness.
yeah, like was a Fantasy Star on the
Yeah,
Master
yeah.
System is kind of like
Fantasy
that.
Star is like that as well. Yep.
And that was what I knew an RPG to be, and I hated those kinds of games,
Yeah,
right?
I
Because
wasn't a big fan.
well, as a kid,
It's
that's
just
not
mazy as
interesting
shit
for you,
too, right?
exactly. And so then you play a game like that, and it's like, holy crap, this is next level. This is a
Mm-hmm.
completely new experience, right?
Well, and like
It's
the
funny.
cinematics you could do on the PS1 too, right?
Absolutely,
Like you
yeah.
had a little bit of that on the Super Nintendo. Like there's some big moments in like
There's
Final Fantasy
moments.
6 and Final Fantasy
Hmm.
4 and stuff like that. Even some of like the later Dragon Quest Super Nintendo games.
Yeah,
But there's just like a difference between panning across a scene where sprites are running to like a like the
full
intro to
cinematic.
Final Fantasy 7 where the camera's
Yeah.
like that's full direction and it's going into the
Yeah,
you see the city, you see the
yeah.
the hue of the city, and you're
Oh,
slowly
it's so
going
good.
into that alleyway. Like you
Yeah.
can't do that on anything until
No.
the PlayStation 1.
No, not at all. It's really fun. It's funny. I was talking with Finney about this exact thing yesterday. So we were talking about Final Fantasy 7. I'm coming up to the end of Final Fantasy 6 right now on stream.
Yeah.
I'm maybe 2 streams away from like completing the game. And I had said to Finney, because he asked me if I'm going to be starting Final Fantasy 7 right away, and I
Yeah.
said I will be playing it, but I don't know how soon I'm going to jump into it because that's a time commitment.
Yeah, it is.
But I said, it's interesting because they originally started Final Fantasy VII to be designed for the N64,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that was the direction that they were heading, and it wasn't until they realized like we can't do the game we want on the 64.
Yeah.
It's going to cost us this much money. It's going to have to be multi cartridge. It's limited. It could be expensive. Blah blah blah. So anyway, I had said to Finney, take a look at some of the sprite models in Final Fantasy VII, particularly the Fort Condor minigame,
Yeah.
and tell me that wasn't originally designed
Yeah,
for the
yeah, like the
N64.
polygonal models and stuff.
The incredibly polygon models, like it was 100%. I'll guarantee you they designed that as like a tech demo kind of thing of like
Yeah.
what we can do with the 64.
Well, did you ever see the Final Fantasy 6 tech demo on the N64?
I didn't. No.
Oh, you
I should
definitely
look
check that out because it's like when you when does it take place? It's like right when it's like you've got Terra and Locke really early.
Mhm.
It's like really early in the game.
Okay.
And yeah, it's the models are like that
Polygonal.
N64 style, polygonal models.
Yeah. Yeah, I had showed him a screenshot, right? And so what they did masterfully with the PS1, what they did was they took those models and everything and they put the 2D background in there, right?
Yeah.
So that it kind of gave it this really it was not high def, but like that concept of like
it's high quality.
The textures were
backgrounds.
really, really high quality, right?
Yeah, it was artwork.
And then you have those polygon guys on top. I'm like, I'll guarantee you they designed all these sprites for the 64, and then when they were like, now we're going PS1, they ported them right on in.
Yeah.
Even looking at the sprites like Cloud with his like horse hoof hands,
Yeah.
right? I'll guarantee you was originally designed for the 64 and then
Could have
just
been, yeah.
fixed and polished up for the PS1.
Yeah.
I get this cough, man. It's killing me.
The what is it called with the I can't remember with the background. Those backgrounds, they have a name, like that style of game.
Yeah, like eight
Pre-rendered,
2D
pre-rendered backgrounds. That's what it's
pre-rendered
called.
backgrounds. Yeah.
Yeah, and like so, and all the once was it Final Fantasy VII? I think was the first one that did it, and then like
Yeah, it was.
every not every JRPG, but all the good ones
All of them.
used it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, 100%, right?
yeah,
It set the standard.
yeah. It
And why
did.
wouldn't you? It looked fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's funny because you boot those games up now on a high def TV and they look like garbage.
They kind of
But
do, yeah, but
I had seen a screenshot of somebody that was like, right, but keep in mind these games were designed to be played on a CRT, and the CRTs looked like this, and they put that CRT filter over top of it,
yeah,
and wouldn't you know it, it made the
smooths
picture
everything
look
out.
so much better.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh man, that's of course that makes so much sense,
yeah,
right? Just the fact that they used that to their advantage too just showed like they were literally doing everything possible
with the hardware that they
to
had.
make it as good as possible, right? And they had a vision of where they could go. Fantastic, right? And I mean, you saw it you saw it in other games as well,
Yeah.
right? So many different PS1 titles. What was the one? What was was it a Tom Clancy game? That there was like was it Rainbow Six?
Yeah, the first Rainbow Six was
Yeah,
on
yeah.
PS1.
And that one like
Hard
when
as
you start getting to
fuck
those
that
points,
game
oh,
was.
100%.
This is like realistic. Like you get shot once, you're dead, man.
Yeah. They're like Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, that looked so
Like
good.
just so many games.
There was
so many games.
So when I
Jump and Flash.
oh, that one's awful, man. The time I got like my PS1 was the first game I had was Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage.
Okay.
But my uncle had a PlayStation, and he had Crash Bandicoot, like the first Crash Bandicoot. So I played a lot of that, and I didn't really like the first Crash Bandicoot. I really liked the second one, but the first one wasn't really my jam.
3D platforming.
Yeah, and it was like you couldn't like save in between each level, whereas in the second one you can save in between each level. So I would get to a certain, I'd beat like 2 or 3 stages and then die and then have to start the whole game over. And I was like,
okay,
fuck. Yeah. And so the second one was a lot better. But he had Crash Bandicoot 1, he had Tomb Raider, of course.
Right.
And he had Star Wars Dark Forces, which is like a first-person shooter, kind of like Doom style game.
I don't know if I heard that one. Okay.
It's pretty good, but it's you know how those games are like very like find the puzzle to solve in the super mazy map. It's like that kind of a first person shooter, right? So like parts of it were really fun, and then other parts were like it was just too hard. Like I couldn't figure out what the heck I was supposed to do. Even to this day, I've never beat it without using cheats and like level skip cheats and stuff, right? But it was I played the crap out of it because that was when the Star Wars like the remasters were coming out, right?
Right.
And it was like Star Wars. I was a kid, and my dad was a huge Star Wars fan. So every time one of those special editions came out, he would take us to the theater and watch it. So Star Wars was like the greatest thing in the world to me at that time. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I loved that game despite the fact that I couldn't get very far in it. And that was about all I played on it. And then I got what was it? I got a jam pack, a PlayStation jam pack.
Yeah, they had like the what was
the
it? The
demo
ones that came with
disc
the magazine,
things.
the demo discs.
Yeah. I got a PlayStation jam pack and Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage for Christmas. And and I was devastated because I didn't have a PlayStation, right? My parents knew that they were getting me a PlayStation on Christmas Day. But we would always open, like with my cousins, we would always go to do Christmas Eve with my cousins and stuff, right?
Right.
And I was like crying and like I was so upset, man. Yeah. I was like, fuck, like we're gonna have to take this back and buy like a Genesis game or something.
Yeah.
And like I was devastated. Like imagine, like this is hard to imagine because the PS5 has no fucking games. But imagine
you bought a PS5 and there was no games to play. Oh wait.
Imagine you got a PS5 game and all you wanted for Christmas was a PS5, and on Christmas Eve you got a PS5 game.
You got the PS5
and you're like, I don't have a PlayStation 5. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it was devastating.
absolutely.
And then I remember the next morning was like the happiest day of my life, man. It was like I still have that picture.
You were the Nintendo 64 kid.
Yeah, I was. except with a good console. I still have that picture like my parents took of me opening the PlayStation 1. I think I posted every Christmas in the Discord, and it was just like the best. Like, and I ran upstairs, I just played the shit out of Ripto's Rage. I don't even know, and then that jam pack, because jam packs were the best because
jam packs were awesome.
There was like all these different games, like demos and parts of games and stuff on them. And I played that a lot. Like, I played a lot of, like, cool... There was, like, a Cool Borders 4 demo on there. Yep. There was that game Tiny Tank. It was just super fucking weird game. I want to stream that at some point, because it's just, like, this tank that just cusses a lot. It's this cute little anthropomorphic tank, and he swears a whole bunch. But, I played those, and then it wasn't until... What else did I have at the start? It was just, like, basic bitch games, right? Like Spyro and stuff like that.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, like I grew up playing. I like to say like I grew up playing JRPGs, but I didn't really. I played Dragon Warrior 1 and Dragon Warrior 4.
Okay.
And then I got into like Mega Man and like Power Blade and Sonic and stuff like that, right? Like Gunstar Heroes. So that was when like the platformer was king, right? It was like the NES and the Genesis and that stuff. So I just kind of like dropped off the RPG thing. Like I had Shadowrun, which was really good, but it was a Western RPG, so I couldn't finish it because I would just do everything and wander around, right?
Yep.
And it was fun, but story wise, I was getting nowhere in it ever, right? And then it wasn't until a classmate was like, he was always talking about Final Fantasy VII because like you in school, it was the PlayStation 1 was kind of getting to the point where. Or maybe we were just getting to the age where like only the kind of nerds kept playing video games from this point.
Yeah, there was a real shift.
Yeah, because there's a point like Nintendo and Super Nintendo, we were at that age where all the kids loved video games, right? And they were all playing video games. But then PlayStation came out, and like the cool kids would play like NHL 98 Madden. Or whatever, right? And stuff like that. And me and there was like I think just me and like Paul and one other kid, and we would just talk about video games, but he would talk about, I'd be like, yeah, I played Spyro, like whatever, right? And he would be like, oh man, I've been playing this game, and he's telling me all this cool shit that happens in like Final Fantasy VII, right? He's like, you gotta get this game. And then I remember he brought it to my house because he lived out of town, and he brought it to like he lived on a farm, right? And I remember I asked if he could stay the night, and then he's like, I'll bring Final Fantasy VII, and he brought it, and I remember my mind was blown because it was 3 discs. I was like, holy crap! He's like, look at this, you can explore the whole world, and I was like, fuck man, this is just like Dragon Warrior, man. Like you can explore the whole world, and you go to all these towns and talk to all these people and do all this stuff. And I was like, dude, I gotta get this game. And then I remember he stayed the night. We played a little bit. We played like Final Fantasy VII and stuff. And he went back home. And that weekend, we went to the city, which is the city I live in now, because we didn't have like you couldn't buy video games in our hometown. Yeah. And I was like, I gotta get Final Fantasy VII, right? And we went to the game. I think it was probably just Walmart or EB Games maybe. And I remember being like, I want to get Final Fantasy VII. And the guy was like, well, we just got Final Fantasy VIII in, and it's even better. And I was like, okay. And like in hindsight, I like Final Fantasy VIII better than Final Fantasy VII. But the vast majority of people would laugh at that, right? Like most people do not like Final Fantasy VIII.
Most people don't like Final Fantasy VIII.
And I was like, hell yeah, right? And because it was new, of course the guys say it was the best. Because every time a new at that time when you're that age, if there's Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is always going to be better than Sonic the Hedgehog 2 because it's brand new, right? Of course. So I got Final Fantasy VIII, and I got home and I fired it up, and that like intro fucking cutscene with like the waves coming in, and then like and there's like all this cool shit.
And I was like, the song that's playing.
Yeah. And like I was like, this is fucking awesome. And then amazing. I just thought, because when he came over and played Final Fantasy VII, I was used to like Dragon Quest, where you just fucking grind like crazy and then go fight the boss, and then he's easier, right? And fucking, I thought that that's what you do, and so I remember I was level 25, before we went to the cave where you fight Ifrit, and he was hard as fuck, but I did beat him. And then there's the Dalit mission. I remember I was like level 26, 27, and I went to the Dalit mission and it got bodied, and I was like, fuck. So then I grinded to level 30, and it got even harder, right? And I was like, man, I must suck at this. And I was also like I think most people are like this their first playthrough. They just use the GFs over, like the summons over and over again. Yeah. Were you like that with 7? Like, did you spam summons or not really?
So I used summons quite a bit, but 7 would punish you if that was the case. You run out of MP long before
there was no MP in 8, and that's why you could spam summon so much.
Yeah, so in 8 you can use magic as much as you wanted, as long as you had done the draw properly, right? Which is one of the reasons. The thing is, I think this is going to turn into a Final Fantasy thing. The reason why people don't like 8 is it's not weird. 7. No, it's just it's there's no difference when you go Final Fantasy 1 through 7. None of the games are the same.
Yeah, but they're a lot more similar than 8.
They're similar. 8 is definitely like a stepchild kind of situation.
Yeah, like it's
but the thing is, they tried something new, right?
Yeah, and they always do.
That they did exactly. They did the same thing that they did in Final Fantasy 2. Where you grow your skills differently, and then they're like, that didn't work. Go into Final Fantasy 3, job class system. That didn't work. Go back into 4, and they fixed a bunch of stuff. 5, they bring back the job class system. When they went to 8, they tried completely different.
Yeah.
And the people weren't ready for that yet.
No, I don't know if they ever were or will be.
No,
it's just the whole structure of it is completely different, right?
Yeah.
And so eventually I kind of like my same buddy that was like, you gotta try this Final Fantasy 7 game, blah 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 blah. When he came over, I mostly like watched him play. Like I did some battles and stuff like that, but I didn't know how like the structure of the game worked. And so he explained how 8 worked, and then I was like, oh, this is just how Final Fantasy is, because 8 was I played Final Fantasy 1 on the NES, but it was so much more complicated than Dragon Warrior 1 was, right? So I was like, I didn't hate it, but I was like, I don't like this. I'd rather play Dragon Warrior.
No. It took me until last year to complete Final Fantasy 1 properly.
Yeah. And I love Final Fantasy 1. It's one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, but as a kid, I could not figure it out.
I had started and stopped that game so many times. It's ridiculous. Before I forget again, I remember some of the other games. So Ridge Racer.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Now
I remember one of mine.
Gran Turismo 1 and then Gran Turismo 2.
Yeah, I had Gran Turismo 2.
Was phenomenal.
So good. I played so much of that, and I don't like cars or anything.
No. And for a simulation racing game, like we played that game like crazy. ESPN Street Sports something. I can't remember the title specifically, but you would like luge, you would like rollerblade. You would do like it was like a California Games style game. Yeah,
it was
ESPN.
I wonder if it was like one of those X Games or something.
X Games, that's what it was. Yeah. Now I have to look it up. ESPN.
Dude,
I'm pretty sure it was like X Games or something.
Yeah, because I remember those existing, but I didn't know what was all in them.
Extreme Games, ESPN Extreme Games. Was what it was. Yeah, and so you would be like there was like luge, biking, rollerblading. Jesus, cough. There was a bunch of stuff. It was not a great game, but holy, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, as
kids,
a kid,
like we played the crap out of that game. I had gone back and played it again,
and it sucked.
And she didn't age very well. Let me tell you that much. And then we did Cool Borders 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, I just played 3 and 4.
Yeah, they were all good. 3 was definitely the best, I think, of all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were all good. We played. There were so many games, dude, that we played. Monster Rancher. That was another one.
Paul had that. He had
Monster
that one,
Rancher
and then he had the second one on the
phenomenal.
PS2 as well.
Monster Rancher was one of those games that was just a cool idea and concept, and didn't really take off, I think, from there.
Yeah.
I think they tried really hard because they were trying to compete with Pokemon and Digimon at the time,
Yeah,
right?
the combat was kind of like weird, right? It was like a
Exactly,
weird
yeah.
tug-of-war thing.
This the idea that, for anyone that doesn't know, the concept with Monster Hunter was that you would buy this game,
Monster
you'd play
Rancher,
it.
so-
Monster Rancher, not Hunter. Different game, totally different game. So with Monster Rancher, what you would do though is you would go find a CD, literally whatever CD, and there would be a point. It's like, okay, put the CD in. You'd put it in. It would read data off that disc and spit out a monster of some kind.
Yeah.
And there was some like really awesome ones that would come from really like
weird
games and stuff.
I remember, I think it was the second game. It might have been the first, but I was like a huge Kiss fan when I was a kid, and I put Kiss's Psycho Circus in, and it gave me like I think it was like Phoenix, who's like one of the best monsters, but because you needed to beat so many tournaments in order to get certain tiers of monster, we can never actually use the damn thing.
And you just be unruly the entire time.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
cool idea for a game.
It was awesome. So I just remember like going to like my parents and his parents, like all their CDs, and just trying them all, and you'd spend the whole afternoon just seeing what monsters you'd get,
just seeing what kicks up.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, exactly. No, that was a really cool game. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, and then one of your all-time favorites, Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah, Final Fantasy IX is the GOAT.
That game was really good. I just only recently played it, but I'm glad that I didn't play it as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't appreciate those kinds of games when I was younger, right? Like I played through Final Fantasy VII. I kind of played through maybe the first third of Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
I played maybe the first 40-ish minutes of Chrono Cross.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even pick Final Fantasy IX up.
Oh.
And then a few years later, I bought a copy of Final Fantasy IX, and it just collected dust. I didn't even open it. I just had it. And it wasn't until, not last year, I guess, but the year before, that I played it. And yeah, I'm glad that I played it now because I could appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm positive that if I would have picked it up back then, I wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah.
It's just because I was so on with Final Fantasy VII, and I didn't understand the idea that 7 didn't lead to 8. 8 was its own game.
Right.
That it immediately turned me off from Final Fantasy because I wanted to know what happened. Yeah,
that happened to me with 9 actually. Because so this is gonna sound dumb as shit in hindsight, but at the time, I remember because I beat Final Fantasy VIII, and like I was obsessed with it. Like I had played it all the time. Actually, I didn't beat it. I didn't beat it for years because the final dungeon's so fucking hard. But I played the shit out of it. Like I did all the side content and whatever. And I remember it was either 99 or 2000. And it was in you'd always get like that Sears Wish book, and you could kind of get a sneak. That was the only way I could get a sneak peek of like what games were coming out, like Christmas. Yeah. And I remember seeing Final Fantasy IX, but it was just a white like thing,
white box.
Yeah, and it said Final Fantasy IX. I was like, yes, it's this fucking. There's a sequel to this game I love so much, right?
Yep.
And kind of like when you were a kid. Like, I don't know if I was a kid, but I would have been like 13, 14 maybe. Okay. When you're that age, you don't always like necessarily beat games, but you can still love that game, right? Without ever beating it. Like you can play the shit out of the game and never beat it and still love it. And but anyways, I was like, yeah, there's going to be a sequel, blah, blah, blah. And then I remember seeing the cover, and I saw, the only thing I saw like that caught my eye was Steiner, right? Okay. And he's kind of like wearing like that metal, and kind of there's like hinges of
knight armor.
Hey,
the knight armor.
Yeah. But it's kind of like in my mind, it was like kind of had bluish tinges to it, and I was like, oh, and this one you play as the Galbadians. I Because like I thought like it was like a sequel, but it was like you were the Galbadian side or whatever, right?
Right.
And I was just so hyped. And when I got it, I was like, oh, this is nothing like it. But
Yeah.
I instantly fell in love because it reminded me even more of Dragon Warrior than 8 did.
For sure.
And I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. And I just remember when I got Final Fantasy 9, I got it at remember I said we would always do Christmas with my cousins on Christmas Eve. I got my mom when my parents split. My mom would always go to my stepdad's family on Christmas Day. So we would usually we'd get like dropped off at like my grandma's or whatever on Christmas morning. And we'd open our presents, get dropped off at my grandma's. And I just remember my one cousin came over from like the other side of the family. And I was like, it sucked. Like Christmas sucked for me all the time after my parents split. Because you would get all this shit and then you're sent to your grandma's where you can't fucking do anything with anything.
Yep.
And this was the year, though, that my older cousin was 16. And I'm telling him about, like, I got fucking Final Fantasy 9. It's, like, this great game where you're, like, going, like, fighting all these monsters and all this stuff. Yep. And my cousin had never seen a JRPG at this point. And so he was, like, hyped. He was like, yeah, I'll just jump in the truck and we'll just drive to you home and we'll play this game. And Final Fantasy 9 has co-op, right? Like, you can have in the battles you can have player 2 control 1 or 2 of the characters, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. 6 has it too, I think, but maybe only in the PS1 version. I can't remember. Okay. So yeah, we came back home and we didn't get very far. Like we got to like Dali Village, I think is where we got. But he was like, man, you're kicking all these things' ass, because like he was used to like NES games, right? Where like everything's hard. And, like, we're just, like, we escaped that forest. Like, that forest cutscene, like, blew my mind. The when they crash amazing in the forest.
So many good.
Yeah, and escaping the forest. And he's just, like, amped, right? And he went out and, like, bought the game, like, that fucking week, right? But, yeah, that was, like, my first good Christmas since, like, my parents split. And it was just, like... After that, I would just like always stay home on like Christmas Day by myself, but at least I'd be able to like play my games.
Yeah,
and
you
stuff.
do whatever. Yeah, you do something that you wanted to do.
Yeah. Right? But it was just like, man, that was awesome. But I did remember a couple of the games that I grew up with when you remembered yours, and yeah, one of them was Gran Turismo 2, which
so good.
I played a lot, and that one helped me like connect with my dad a lot because my dad was like a big car guy, right?
Oh, okay.
And like I am not at all. Like I could give a shit if it drives me from here to there and doesn't look like a granny mobile. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And so
he would have loved that game then.
Oh yeah,
because you're like so many cars. There's over 200 some cars in that game.
Well, not only that, but you get like that simulation mode where you get like a shitty car, and then there's like
you soup it
up, and there's like all these customizations.
You tune the engine. You can do all sorts of
things.
Yeah.
So you have this kid that has like barely anything in common with his dad, and this dad that has this hobby that you're not interested in at all, but this game is so much fun. So like I'm just constantly being like, "What's a flywheel?" And he's like more than happy to like talk. Yeah, it's like because he like the only other thing that would light him up like that is like Star Wars, right? Like it's like when you're showing your kid Star Wars, or like when you were watching like Digimon with your kids, right? It's like
you find something in common, and now you get to like do this fun thing together
to bond over something that you both really like, and it was like all this stuff like gear ratios and like I didn't know what any of this shit was, right? But I wanted to get better at the
range.
yeah. But I like wanted to get better because you always start with like a shit car, right?
Yeah, that's right. You start at the bottom.
And so I just remember him like this was like the only game where he would like come in like my room and like fucking be like, okay, yeah, you want the gear, you want it set like this, you want these kind of tires for this kind of a car, and like it helped me like do better in the game. But it was like the only time we could really like bond over, right?
Oh, that's so cool.
And
what
then
an awesome memory.
Yeah, and then another awesome memory I always had with him was the PS1 was the first console I played so much that I would wear out the contacts on the controller. So he would have to like spray him with like take the controller apart, spray him with WD-40. And the only other time I got to like bond with him that way was like when the was it a 72 pin on the NES or a 32 pin?
72.
72. And I remember he would like take apart the NES, and I just thought it was so cool
no way.
seeing
He dismantled the whole NES, hey?
Yeah. I just remember seeing like the insides and be like, holy crap, like this runs all that?
Yeah.
Like thinking that was so cool. But yeah, there's Gran Turismo 2, and then there was Street Skater. I played the shit out of that game.
Oh, what a soundtrack on that
That's
one.
what got me into like ska and like punk music, because there was like Less Than Jake.
Less Than Jake.
Yeah, Less Than Jake, Guttermouth.
I remember you had the Street Skater game in your like music wallet.
It was in my car all the time because the soundtrack was so good. That was the other thing. PS1 games a lot of times, if they had a good soundtrack, you could literally just take the game, put it in your CD player, and listen to the music.
Oh yeah,
dude.
I
have a
remember
fucking
that
funny story about that now. Actually, I had a game. It was Star Wars Demolition, and it was basically like Twisted Metal, but with Star Wars vehicles and stuff.
That's a cool idea.
It is a cool idea, but it wasn't a very good game.
It's a cool idea. Terrible game.
But anyways, I was such a like little nerd. I put it because every time I get a PlayStation game, I'd play the shit out of it, and then I'd be like, oh, I wonder what is on it for music. And sometimes like the first track would be just like game data, like blank or whatever, and then you'd hit like the skip button, and it would go to the second, and then sometimes you'd have to skip through a few to find like the music. And anyways, dude, oh my god, it was so. This is like the cringiest shit ever. I popped it in, and it was like just this blank nothing song, and then I was like, okay, so I went to the next one. And it was like, and I was like, I would just like rock up to the fucking Mos Eisley
Cantina song.
I would have it in my fucking, oh my god, the big foam elephant. Oh my god, dude, I would like rock out to that. Oh, what a loser.
What are you doing, Duke?
Yeah, it was so dumb. Oh man, but
That's good, though.
Street Skater I played so much. Like I unlocked everything in that game, and it was hard as fuck too.
Oh yeah, some of those games were really difficult.
And I remember my cousins playing like Tony Hawk and stuff, and it was like a completely different game from that.
Mm-hmm.
And
was Tony Hawk on PS? No, that was on PS2, wasn't it?
No, the first one was on. I think the first 3 were on PS1.
Are they on PS1?
Yeah, I think so. Because the N64
reason.
had like 2 and 3, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But those games were super popular. I never had any of them. I had
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and it was really good.
And that was another game that like it had great fucking music.
That was awesome. Yeah, the soundtrack for that was fantastic. It's funny, I picked up the remaster of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and it's exactly like it was before.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at that game. Like I used to be phenomenal at that game. And I forgot how to play it completely, because it's not about like doing a cool trick. It's about stringing tricks together.
Yeah.
And learning the maps, so where you go and you do those tricks. And then there was a lot of like hidden item hunting, and I'm not that kind of a gamer.
Yeah,
that's not my.
It was hard, man. Like Street Skater was hard, but Tony Hawk was like a different kind of hard. Like Tony Hawk was like an open playground kind of thing, whereas Street Skater was like a course, and you had to have a certain score from tricks, and you had to have a certain time. Like you had a time limit to get to the end of the course. Right.
Yeah. That's right.
What other freaking weird-ass games? I remember I bought a Dragon Ball Z game, Ultimate Battle 22, and it was like the shittiest fucking game ever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was really bad.
I didn't even know they made some PS1 Dragon Ball games.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z was super popular at that point in time.
Yeah,
so it
was.
Makes sense.
But they didn't really have... And then they had Dragon Ball GT Final Bout, which was really bad as well. It was like a 3D... fighting game, and it was terrible. I played the crap out of it because it was better than Ultimate Battle 22, but it was really bad.
Were you into Parappa the Rapper?
My uncle did have that one. I played it there, but I never owned it myself until I got it on the PSP.
I tried it and I was really bad.
I love it now, but yeah, back then not really.
Yeah. Spider-Man 1 and 2 on the PS1, those ones were really
fucking good. Those were so good. And I was like a huge Spider-Man 2099 fan. Like to this day, I have every issue of Spider-Man 2099.
Right.
And I remember they added a Spider-Man. Well, first of all, do you remember like the '90s Spider-Man cartoon? Did you ever watch?
Yes.
It was like top tier. It was like so good. That's like I loved it so much. And then I remember when I think it was 3 or 4 seasons, and then they added the next season was Spider-Man Unlimited, and they were gonna do 2099 or 2099, but they I don't know if they couldn't get the rights or if it was like Batman Beyond was popular and they didn't want to be like, I don't want to do the same thing. So they did Spider-Man Unlimited where it was Counter Earth. It's like this alternate dimension or whatever.
Right.
And I remember being like so bummed because I thought it was going to be Spider-Man 2099. And then I think it was the Spider-Man on the PlayStation. I didn't own it yet, but I would always get like the Tips and Tricks magazines.
Okay, yep.
And there was a cheat that let you get all the costumes, and I believe one of the costumes was the Spider-Man 2099 costume.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I was like, I had to have it, and that's when I got that, and then that was so good, and then
it was a
I got
solid
the
game.
second one. Yeah,
it had that open world kind of thing too.
Kind of. Like, you couldn't go
it wasn't
below the
super open world,
certain line of the buildings because like they just didn't have enough data at that time.
It wasn't designed to be played that way.
Yeah, so you could swing from rooftop to rooftop, but you could only swing like a certain distance and in certain areas. Like it's super jank now.
Yeah.
But and the way they explain it, they actually explain it in game is in that like they pump this poison fog up on the ground. So that's why you can't like go down there for most of the game.
I remember that.
But it was good, man. And like they had all the voice actors from the animated series, so like Venom and like all that. It was so good, dude.
What about fighting games? Were you into fighting games back then?
I wasn't at that time. Later on, I played a lot of like the original Street Fighter Alpha, which is still probably my favorite Street Fighter game, and that's a PS1 game.
So Jason had Tekken, OG Tekken.
Ooh, Tekken 2 was good.
Tekken 2, and I don't think he got Tekken 3, but I think 3 was supposed to be the best out of the PS1 titles.
I think it was supposed to be.
He also had Soul Edge, which was the precursor to Soul Calibur.
Oh.
And I remember playing Soul Edge, and that game was just so freaking fun. It had an absolutely phenomenal cinematic, like an intro. If you've never seen it before, I'll send it to you. It was really, really good.
Oh, okay.
And then what about Resident Evil games? I know you don't like them very much, but did you ever get on board with them?
So first I want to do the fighting game because now you jogged some of my memories.
Okay. Okay.
So Paul had the only fighting game I had. There's a Gundam Battle Assault or something like that, and that's a pretty fun fighting game that I had. And then that shitty Ultimate Battle 22 Dragon Ball Z game, and that shitty Dragon Ball GT Final Bout, which sucked ass, but I played a ton.
Right.
But Paul had Battle Arena Toshinden.
Oh yeah, Jason had that too.
Yeah, and we played that quite a bit at his house.
That one was in a long box as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
But shit, what were you at? Oh, Resident Evil. So
Resident Evil.
I didn't have Resident Evil games. And like this was like when games started to finally get like advertising on like a regular TV.
Right.
And I just remember like my parents one of my parents' friends' kids had Resident Evil 3 they had. And I just remember we were going over there for the night, right? Because like they'd go hang out and I'd play with the kids and play video games and stuff. And they were like, okay, but they got that Resident Evil game, and you're not allowed to play it because you're gonna have nightmares. And then of course, because they said you're not allowed to play it,
that you gotta play it.
As soon as I get there, they're like, I was like, oh, what else did he had? He had fucking Killer Instinct, but I think that was Super Nintendo. I think that was
Super Nintendo. Yeah, that's Super Nintendo.
But anyways, we used to play Killer Instinct over there all the time. But yeah, then we went and I was like, can we play? Like I had to like discreetly ask him, can we play Resident Evil? And he's like, oh yeah, and like I didn't like it, but like I loved it because I wasn't supposed to be playing it.
Yeah.
And we only played like a little bit, and I just remember like Nemesis being like stars and like like showing up and like coming after you and stuff.
Yeah.
And like the zombies and like the sounds and stuff more than anything.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So Jason picked that game up.
Which one?
And he was like, Resident Evil 2.
Oh,
And he
okay.
was like, you got to get out of here. The intro to Resident Evil 2 has this screen cap from Resident Evil 1 of this like zombie laying like it's just like his face is sideways
Oh
like
yeah, then
this,
he
and
like
he's
looks
looking at the
at you.
camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that freaked me out so bad. I had to sleep with my freaking door open for like a month.
Oh.
That one really freaked me out, like bad,
Yeah.
really bad, to the point where my parents were like, "You're not allowed to my older brother. You're not allowed to play this if Michael's in this room."
Yeah.
Like it freaked me out
It was
so bad,
scary.
dude.
And the best part of my whole thing was that night we came home, and I remember my parents like went to bed and I was in bed, and I remember I had to crawl in bed with my parents. I was so scared. And then it was like, you were playing that damn Resident Evil game. I was so scared.
Oh yeah, dude, that one was brutal. That one was rough as a kid.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you think back to like how old are you? That game's designed for like 16 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And we're probably like 7.
Well, I would
right?
have been
Like,
I would have been like maybe like 10 or something, maybe. I don't even know.
Oh, yeah.
Probably around that
Yeah.
age.
it would have been a long, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, brutal freaking Resident Evil. Wipeout was another one. That was another racing game.
Oh yeah, I
don't know if
played.
you ever
Oh,
played
my
that one. It
uncle
was like
had
F-Zero kind of.
my uncle had Jet Moto.
Jet Moto.
That
yeah,
was
that was
fun.
The wakeboarding or
It was like a jet bike.
Sea-Doos. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
fun because you could
That
go
one
over
was
water
beast.
and you could go over land, and like it was like just a jet bike. It was like those bikes from fucking Star Wars, basically, right?
Right,
Like the
right.
Return of the Jedi, kind of. And then the third one added like grapple hooks, so you'd be like there'd be like a tree or something, and you'd grapple hook the tree so you
Oh.
could go around the corner faster.
Yeah, I
and
never
shit.
really got into them all that much. Uh, Twisted Metal 2, we played the ever-loving crap out of.
Yeah.
We beat Twisted Metal 2 with every single one of the characters.
Holy.
Because, well, at the end of the game, you
It's a
would get a
different
different
wish.
cutscene.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would get somebody else. We wanted to see them all, right? So we played it with all of them. You would even unlock characters like Warthog and like Sweet Tooth and all of them. Like, you would unlock different characters. Or not Sweet Tooth.
Yeah,
there
no,
was a
you would
version of
like
Sweet Tooth.
Warthog. I remember unlocking Warthog.
But there was a version of Sweet Tooth is like Death Tooth or something like
Oh,
that. Like, there was
okay.
a different version of him. There was also Tenchu. Do you remember that one?
Oh, I have that. Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
good. It's super
Jason
fucking
was
hard.
into that one,
but it's
Very
really
difficult,
good.
That one. And then remember I was talking earlier about like a Tom Clancy game. Siphon Filter was the name of that.
Right, and you could tase
It
them in the
was-
balls and light them on fire.
Yeah,
That's all we would do.
Also, really hard. The
Yeah,
game
it was,
very
yeah.
very difficult. There was a lot of games. Tenchu was one I remember. Both Tenchu and Tenchu 2 were games that Jason really was into. I was awful at them, but dude,
They're
he
hard.
loved those games. Like you're just being a straight up ninja,
Yeah,
right?
like you'd have to like assassinate. I remember. I think it was like the first mission. You have to get on like this guy's roof, and you get
Yep.
this like string, and you pour poison on the string, and it dips
Yep.
into his tea to kill him and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's insane. A game that I haven't played for the PS1 that's like number one for a lot of people was Symphony of the Night.
Ooh,
Did you play
yeah.
Symphony of the Night on PS1?
I
Or did you
I
not play that
did,
till
but it was
later?
way later. Like I probably
Way
played
later,
it on
okay.
PS3 first.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So like way down
Yeah,
the road.
yeah. Like I played
Gotcha.
Castlevania 1, I played Castlevania 3, and then I played Bloodlines, and then I didn't really touch the series until I went back. And it was actually Bubs, like your younger brother, that
Right.
was like super obsessed with Symphony of the Night, and then that's when I finally went and played it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was never really into those kinds of games, so that's one now that I want to play. What about the Silent Hill franchise? Wasn't 1 and 2 both on PS1?
No, 1 was and 2 was PS2. 2 is like
2 was on
2
PS2.
and 4
okay.
are like really
The
good.
best. weren't
Yeah,
they?
and then 1, I don't know. They say it's really good, but I'm shit like at survival horror games because like
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
like the puzzling. I don't
It's
like
the
all
controls.
the backtracking and the
The
controls.
tank controls, man.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
yeah. Another game I played on PS1 a lot, and years later I found out it was originally supposed to be like the Streets of Rage 4. Like it was like the same dev team that did the Streets of
Okay.
Rage games, but it's a 3D beat 'em up. It's called, I
Interesting.
think, Fighting Force or Freedom Force. I think Fighting Force.
No idea.
and it was pretty
Never heard of
fun.
it.
Yeah, it's
Huh.
just like a 3D beat 'em up kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, trying to reach out. Like, I know there was a ton of like RPGs. Like Finney would say, Legend of Dragoon,
Oh yeah, Legend of Dragoon. I played a
um,
lot. Legend of Legaia. I play at Paul's
Legaia.
house a
Yeah.
lot. Legend of Dragoon was like it's such a long game, and the biggest reason I haven't replayed it is because the combat system's great, but makes the battles super long. Like because you have to do
Mm.
like these like button time press combos and stuff all the time.
Oh, okay. It was one of those type.
Yeah, and then they'd like call out the name of the attack and then do a finisher of the combo if you did the whole thing,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha.
And it just like takes a game that should probably be about 30 hours and makes it about 60 hours
Oh,
because of
wow.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it was so good at the time because when you're like at that age where you're like I don't know 14, 15 or something like that.
That's what you have to do.
That's what you have to do, right? So this
Yeah.
game is like your game for that year. And I just
Right.
remember with Legend of Dragoon actually, my parents would go like camping all the time. And
Okay.
it got to the point where like once my parents separated, my mom was like, "No, you can't bring anything. We're camping." But my dad would be like, "Yeah, we'll bring the TV, we'll bring some movies, VCR." And I was
Right.
allowed to bring like the PlayStation. And I remember the one summer we went camping and we went all over the place, and then in the evenings I would come home or we'd come back to the camper and I would just play Legend of Dragoon like every night
Nice.
that whole summer.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, we kind of did the same thing with my PS1 as well. We'd take it up to the lake and then on rainy days or at nighttime or whatever. That's where I got most of my FF7 in.
Oh yeah.
That's how I unlocked the gold chocobo. What else are you going to do?
Yeah, yeah, you do everything. And that was like with me with Final Fantasy 9, man. Like I completed
Yeah.
everything. That was the first Final Fantasy that I like beat. Like I beat that before I
Oh,
ever
yeah.
beat 8. And it was like man, it was so good. I just remember that
So
fucking
good.
Necron being just a douche
Right.
because he can be
Yeah.
rough like if you're not prepared
Oh, yeah.
for him. And
Oh,
he's
not
just
prepared.
shows up after you beat Kuja, so you think you
That's
beat
right.
the game and then fucking
Yeah.
Necron comes and slaps your dick off.
Such a good system, dude. PS1's that console that'll always have a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
I don't play the games all that much anymore because some of them are really awful
They
to
just
go back and
aged.
play.
Yeah.
It's tough because you can't go back and play them again. But they're remastering a lot of those games, I think, and bringing them back. I do intend on playing Symphony of the Night. That is on my list
Yeah, that
of
was
games
good.
to play. Yeah, I do want to play that one for sure.
I think the thing about the PS1 was like we were at that age where we were the demographic for it too,
That's right. Yeah.
Like if you
Yeah.
were a younger kid, maybe the N64 would have been better for you, right? Because you had your little Mario games and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But the PS1 was like we would have been like young teenagers, right? And like
Yep.
we wanted like the edgier stuff, like the more like adult themed stuff at that age.
That's right.
And like to be able to like tell a coherent story, that's where like Final Fantasy VIII, like I could like find parts of me that would like relate to the characters. And then with Final
Yep.
Fantasy IX, it was like big time. Like
Oh, yeah.
I loved Zidane, I loved Vivi, like all these characters just like resonated with me, and it just kind of like helps you like form who you are, right? Like
Totally.
growing
Totally.
up with these characters and stuff
Yeah.
at that time in
Yeah.
your life where you're like in
Exactly.
your formative years and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
Did you ever play the Tomba games?
Never.
They're like
No, I've seen them played. I've seen you played them.
yeah,
You played them, but I had never played them.
they're like these like 2D well, the first one's like a 2D platformer, but it's all like
Mhm.
you're like solving all these little puzzly things while like
Yeah.
doing platforming, and then the second one I think is even better, but it's like a weird 3D 2D like 2.5D
okay.
platformer.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
there's like all these you can always like interact with stuff in the foreground and the background really well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was no, and I never. Well, the thing is, I was still pretty young when the PS1 came out, so I didn't have money. That's why the mod chip was super cool because
Oh,
we had
yeah.
a burner on our home computer. So if I could get somebody who had the game, I would just like, hey, can I borrow that for a couple hours?
Oh, and then
I
you
would just
copy it?
take a copy of the game, and there you go, and you can have your game back. And now I've got a copy of it too, and away we go, right? Sorry, Sony. I would have bought them if I was a young man, but
Yeah, no
if I
doubt.
had money.
I remember
But yeah,
Paul had Metal Gear Solid, like the first Metal Gear Solid,
yeah,
and that
that's
was
another
like
one I haven't played before.
it was. It's weird because like most people love that game, and I love the Metal Gear series, but the first one has just never really clicked with me, and I don't
Never
know if
hit
it's
with
like
you,
the
eh?
weird controls or what it was.
Yeah,
But I've never really like I like the story of it, but to play it, I just don't really enjoy playing Metal Gear Solid 1.
yeah.
But
A
to
lot
watch
of people
Paul
put
play
that their
it,
number one.
was like incredible because the cinematic like this the cinematography of it and everything was just so
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like it was like watching like an action movie, like with
Right.
really good like and like voiced like vocal work that wasn't shit. Because at that
Yeah.
time, all the vocal work was shit. Like the original Resident Evil was like, you were just about a Jill sandwich. Like
Yeah, Jill, I got you this lockpick. I figured you, the master of unlocking, could use it.
yeah, like shit like that, right? Whereas Metal Gear Solid, like it was like fucking good. Like all the voice acting was top tier.
They had proper like professional voice actors doing it. A lot of times in those games, they would just pull someone in the office and be like, "Here, can you read this?"
Yeah,
Kinda sound
exactly.
like
And
the
that's
part that we're
absolutely
looking
what a
for.
lot of it was.
Yeah.
And then the notorious Paul had the Brady Games guide for Final Fantasy IX. And this was like when the
Oh.
internet was first coming out, and Squaresoft had a website called playonline.com. And if you bought the fucking Brady game, so any other game, if you buy the Brady Games guide, it's an in-depth guide of like
It's the book.
everything. Like you got all the side quests, it tells you how to get every item, whatever. This one, like 80% of the thing is like it would get you, like Gizamaluke's Grotto, like when you get to that point. Pretty much the rest of the game, it was like, look at the playonline.com site.
Oh,
It was
no.
awful. And we were like, what the fuck? Like he bought this book to help us like get through the game.
Right.
And it had no info in it at all. And like
that's
not
brutal.
everyone had internet access at that time either.
No. Well, if you did, it was dial up, so it was
Yeah.
like it was a pain in the ass to go to.
Where
the
you had to go to the
computer and look something up.
library.
Yeah. You just go to the library, just print it out.
Yeah, dude, I remember printing so much shit at the library. Fucking I downloaded like all the Final Fantasy VIII. They had like all their profiles and like what their birth date is and their favorite food.
Yeah.
And I just remember printing all that stuff. I remember printing I didn't have any Mega Man games on the PS1, which is I got Mega Man Legends, which was fucking the best. Like I loved that game so much.
Mega Man Legends, that was another PS1 game.
And but all the like Mega Man X games I had never played until like years later. But I just saw like all the different like armor upgrades, so I'd like download all the pictures of the armor upgrades, and I was like, this is so cool. And, like print them out and stuff.
Yeah, the game facts existed back then.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
that's where you
remember
go.
Cheat CC?
Cheat CC.
I wonder if that even exists. But that was like the go-to for cheats.
Yep.
And I had a game. Did you have a Game Shark for your PS1?
No, we never had a Game Shark.
Oh, I had a Game Shark, and I would like. So I remember because like Final Fantasy IV came out like on the PS1, right?
Right.
And I remember having it was like the first or second time I fought Zero Miss. I had like all my favorite characters. So I had like Yang in my final party and like all these characters that you can't have in your final party. And I was just like, I don't know. I would like do that. And then for Chrono Trigger, the only way I beat Chrono Trigger when I was a kid was I had everybody at level 99. Because like I had lost to Lavos like 2 or 3 times, and I was like, fuck. So I put in the Game Shark and maxed everyone out.
Man, it's so good. I love reminiscing about those old consoles because it's like going back in time to being a kid.
It is
again, right? But
just the joy it brings back. It's
so
just
good,
incredible.
Yeah,
but I don't even know what would the next console be.
Well, so I mean, it kind of splits off after the PS1. Like, obviously, the N64 has to be discussed. The
I
N64,
think we did that. Didn't we do the N64?
Did we talk about the N64 and the Saturn?
Yeah, we did that all on one episode. I believe.
Okay. Yeah, it's not hard to forget that. I don't have much of an N64 knowledge base. And so then obviously we go up to the next generation, right? So
Yeah.
the PS2, the Xbox, the GameCube, and the Dreamcast.
Yeah. We could probably do Dreamcast and Xbox all in one.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, so that's where you and I start to split off because I didn't have a PS2 really until later on, and I had an Xbox.
This,
I have a story about the PS2.
PS2.
We'll save that for the PS2
save that
episode.
for the PS2 episode. Yeah.
And then I never have and still don't own a GameCube. Jason had one. I did play it, but I hated the controller for the GameCube, so I never picked it up. And then I never had a chance with the Dreamcast. I wanted a Dreamcast. I still want a Dreamcast, but I never actually had a shot because by the time I had enough money to buy one, Sega was dead.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I would imagine that's probably the area next. Well, probably what we would do is start on like the Dreamcast, the GameCube, the Xbox, and then the PS2 at the end because I know the PS2 would be a long one. Like
yeah, yeah.
Dude, yeah,
we'd probably be able to combine. Have you ever played a GameCube?
I've played a GameCube. I've never played a Dreamcast.
Because we could maybe do Dreamcast GameCube as one as like one episode.
Oh yeah,
then probably.
I don't have a ton of stuff to say about the GameCube, but I mean obviously a little bit. I have since played them before, but I really so the games didn't appeal to me, and I hated the controller.
Yeah,
I don't mind the controller so much anymore, but it's so damn small.
It is weird, really weird controller. I found it comfortable
it's
all
better
the time,
than the 64.
but it was really weird.
Well, your hands are smaller than mine.
Yeah, that is.
That's why I like the Xbox. That bastard was like this big.
The fucking elephant hoof, man. I hated it. Hated it so much. But yeah.
Yeah.
That was our
what a console.
Childhood growing up with the PlayStation 1. Tell us your stories growing up with the PlayStation 1. Like, what are your biggest memories with the PS1? What were some of the first games you got? Did they suck? Were they great? Oh, I had Bubsy 3D. Gave that to your younger brother. That game was awful.
Were you a Xenogears fan?
No.
Were you a Lunar fan?
Oh, yeah. Lunar is great.
Gradia?
Grandia. Yeah, those were all great games that I hadn't played until much later.
Them at all.
Lunar is like top, maybe like in my top 5 games of all time. Like,
yeah,
those games are so good.
There was a lot of PlayStation games that I just completely don't. I still don't know some of them that exist.
Yeah,
so good.
But yeah, let us know
Tell us all about it.
What PS1 games you grew up playing.
Come and watch us stream them live, Duke. We both play PS. I'm literally playing. Well, I guess Final Fantasy VI doesn't really count.
But you're playing the PS1
I'm playing the PS1 version of it. Well, no, actually, that's not correct. I started playing the PS1 version because that's the game that I own.
Yeah.
And then it was failing on me. It wouldn't work.
Oh, weird.
And so I switched.
Oh, you're playing the Super NES one?
Swapped over to the SNES.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm playing on the Super Nintendo version. But still, Final Fantasy VII is the next one on the list.
Yeah, dude.
That is one that I will.
Yeah, be sure to give us a follow on Twitch. I'm twitch.tv/Dookie03.
Yeah, and you can find me twitch.tv/DGOnline. It's right here. The link, mine's right here, and yours is over there. Click them. Click the links. Don't click that link. Type it in. But
basically, each stream 3 nights per week, at least, usually. And
usually.
It's always a good time.
Come hang out with us in the Discord.
But yeah, join the Discord. Let us know what some of your favorite PS1 games, what some of your least favorite ones that you got stuck with as a kid. And
yeah, what's a game that you bought that you were like, this is going to be great, and you played 15 minutes of it, you're like,
Beast Wars was that game for me, dude, because I loved Beast Wars, and that game sucks. It's kind of like a funny suck now, but like at the time when I was a kid, it was like
so disappointed because that was the game that you picked and you got stuck with.
But yeah, tell us in the comments. And when did you get the PS1? Was it early on? Was it late in its life? Let us know. And be sure to, if you enjoy these, be sure to like, subscribe, and rate it if you're on Spotify. And you guys have a good one, man. We'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time. So long.